Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast. Today's guest is Brian Greenberg. Brian is the author of a great book called The Salesman Who Doesn't Sell. Now, his businesses have collected in excess of $50 million of revenue, and along the way he's earned over 10,000 five-star reviews, customer testimonials, and on the show today we're talking all about the power of reviews. Now, you're going to learn how to collect more five-star reviews. You'll learn the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. I was really surprised at Brian's advice about the right way to go about collecting a review. We also spend a bunch of time talking about the biggest mistakes that practitioners make. And of course, we talk about what to do when inevitably you end up with a bad review. Now, Brian has a great system for dealing with all of this. Now, like it or not, reviews are becoming a really important part of our business. They should be one of your key arsenals in your whole kind of marketing array there as well. So if you're wanting to learn how to up your game with your reviews and how to leverage reviews so you end up with more patients coming into your practice, then this episode is for you. Enjoy the show. Let's jump on in.
Welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast, where we guide natural health and wellness experts through the pitfalls of marketing. Each episode, you'll learn simple, effective, easily actionable, and heart-centered marketing strategies. And here's your host, Angus Pyke.
Brian, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Angus.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been very much looking forward to chatting with you. I've been doing a lot of teaching with my clients at the moment, all about reviews and the impact of reviews. And I'm seeing it playing a larger and larger role of what people do before coming to see me inside of my chiropractic practice. And you've literally written the book on this kind of stuff, which we're going to dive into. But before we do that, can you give our listeners a little bit of a background of your journey? You know, we're talking about $50 million in revenue of sales, previous business, over 10,000 reviews. Take us through the journey of what brought you to where you are right now.
Sure. My background is I've been selling on the internet primarily for the past 15 years. Now, when you're selling on the internet, people find you and they see you online, and it's hard to convince them that you're a legitimate person, that you have a good reputation. And right away, I started collecting reviews, and I saw just a tremendous power from it. Reviews have been becoming such a persuasive form of getting business and closing business. You know, you'll see it from just Amazon. You know, they have an e-commerce website that closes at 20%, where the normal conversion rate is just 2%, right? So I've been doing this for a while. My main business is in life insurance, Angus, which is one of the most competitive markets on the internet. And I've been doing very well. My conversion rate is more than double than all my competitors.
I just have noticed over the last 5 years, particularly if I'm going into an area that I haven't had a direct referral from somebody else, if I'm traveling, if I'm then reviews are such an enormous part of what has me make a decision. And then not only that too, I find myself looking at reviews for $10 items. Beforehand, I perhaps thought I might not have been interested. I went, why am I wasting all this time reading reviews there? So tell me this, when it comes to, how did you go about getting 10,000 reviews? Is that something that you initiated, or did you have a process to make all of that happen?
Definitely a process. So the number one thing is you got to ask, right?
Yes.
I like to only ask people when you're done giving the service, right? After you've provided something to them and they're happy, that's the time to ask for a review. I highly recommend not asking everyone for a review.
Yes.
Now, what I like to do is let people know the value of a review. So I don't know, they've done studies like on Yelp, like if you lose a star, your business can go down 10%. All right. In my business, my conversion rate goes up so far that I know that every review I get is worth at least $100 and about $25 every year because it stays there. And if I can get a review on a third-party site that people trust even more, like a Google business, it's worth $250 to me and about $50 a year after that. It's that persuasive. Any business you're in, like you said, even if it's a $10 item, they're going to go online and check you out. And that's where you need to close them.
So tell me this, why, I'm interested in terms of, I've never actually thought about the dollar value of a review. It totally makes sense. Why do you not ask everybody for a review post-sale?
Well, post-sale, yes. Okay. That's, and when they're happy, right?
So
That's
every
the
happy
time.
person you'll ask.
Right. It's the reciprocity effect
Yes.
is what it's called, right? So if you do a good service for them and you simply ask, can you leave a review for me? It's important. That's when they do it. And overwhelmingly, if you ask, they will do it. It's people love leaving reviews as long as you make it easy for them, Angus. I highly recommend emailing them or even texting them with a direct link to where you want them to leave the review. One example is Google Business. I have a place on my website where you can give them the link that goes exactly to the place where you get the pop-up, right? To leave the stars and the review. And that's always where you want to send them. Never send them to like the main landing page. Send them, there's a URL, right? On all these places. You want to send that URL where it says /review/write a review. Send that to them. Make it easy for them.
Is there a language that you have found that works best in the email or the text that you send to people?
Yeah, just it's always, it's very important to our business to build reviews. It's mostly it. Now, in other businesses, you'll have people working for you. And it's very difficult to have them ask for reviews. It's sometimes it's not comfortable, right? It's a form of bragging. I don't know. It's a roadblock, right? I like to bonus my employees, right? So if somebody gets a review, $25 bonus for the employee. You don't want to pay the customer to leave a review. That's bad news. But the employee, yes. And I overwhelmingly see my team saying, if you can leave a review, I get bonuses, right? Or we're in a contest. Just something that small is going to convince your whole team to start asking for reviews, right? And that'll do it. That I know it does it. I got employees with me that earn over $1,000 bonuses just from collecting reviews.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that so many people have an issue with asking for reviews? What's your experience with that?
Number one, I think that they don't know the value of it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Number two is they don't know when to ask. It's very important that you know when. I like to have my employees say, are you happy? Are you happy with the job we did? When they say yes, that's when you ask.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't have to be a strong ask. Just if you have time, leave me a review. I'll send you an email. Right? Like I said, just plant the seed, if you will.
Yes. And so, Brian, would it be as simple as that? So I've just bought some life insurance on you. We've gone through, we've worked everything out. It's all in place and we get to that stage. And would it be just as simple as you're saying, so Angus, I just want to check in. Are you happy with how everything's going? Fabulous, yes. Brian, all is great. And then again, can you role play with me exactly how you might just ask for that review after that?
Sure. Let's say I'm a patient of yours.
Yes.
And we just finished a session, right? Said, wonderful, how you feeling? Are you happy with the service? Are you feeling good? Wonderful. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, would you leave a review for me on my website? It's important for my business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes. It's funny. I think we really overcomplicate it. I know that, when I've got some of, the practitioners I work with that are brilliant at it, and none of them have any kind of fancy strategy about it. Yeah. It is just exactly that. I think one of the things that does make it easier is the importance of that follow-up with an email, with a clickable link, as opposed to having somebody. I figure the more work that we can do for our patient, our customer in advance to kind of help them, then, the easier it'll be, the more likely there is to be follow through. You mentioned beforehand, there are multiple different review sites, from Yelp to Google My Business, those kind of things there. What's your experience of third parties? What ones have the most weight? Should we try and get reviews across all of them? What are your suggestions?
You know what? I have a theory, and that's that I like to collect the reviews myself first before I start asking people to leave reviews on a third party. I think that's one of the main blocks as well. I didn't mention that, but people are scared that they're going to get a negative review, right?
Yes.
So when I say, can you leave a review, I'll send them first the email and the text and have them leave me the review. There's several software out there, from Trustpilot to Bird Eye to Shopper Approved. You could even do your own custom one. I always recommend that you have stars and then a little comment. You basically copy the same format that Amazon has, right? That way you can put it on your website, Angus, so you can put the star review, usually the name of the person, the date. It's very important to put the date, sometimes the city, and maybe even the service, and then a comment.
Yes.
Now, after you get the 5-star review, that's when the magic happens. This is the secret. You send that exact comment that they gave you, and you give them a link and say, can you leave it on Google Business? Can you leave it on Yelp? And you list all 3 places, and you give them those direct links. Now these people can go to those websites and copy and paste. That's it. Now, that's why I get people that they'll leave 1 review. No, they'll leave 4 reviews, and it's easy for them. Copy, paste, boom, boom. And then you start getting all these, then it comes quick.
All right. So let me see if I've got that step. You have some kind of third-party software that's on your website, whatever it is there too. They'll leave the review with you first. And then when it's a great review, or if it needs a bit of, touching up from there too, you'll email that back to them with links to those other sites saying, thank you so much, Brian, that review was so helpful for us. If you had a moment, could you also pop that same review in 1, 2, and 3 as well?
All done by text and email. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there a way, and so I'm assuming that on your website, we have this review system, which really is your review system. It's not not one of the big ones there too. Is there a way for us to have plugins and the likes to take the big ones like Google My Business, Yelp, those kind of things there, and have those reviews appear on our website? Have you seen that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's a lot of plugins. If you have a WordPress site or
yes.
Any sort of CMS website, that there's plugins, and you try to display them like on the side and scroll them. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. Okay.
Yes.
I like just lifting an image, right? An image of Google with some stars, and I put it on every page of my website in the footer. All right. Absolutely. If they're going to schedule an appointment, put it definitely on that page. Now, when they click that link, don't send them to your main Google business page. Again, send them to the places that list all the reviews, right? If it's on every page of the website, it's right there. I like to do the Better Business Bureau here. Perfect. If you want to do Yelp, I like to put maybe 2 or 3 places that you're going to have reviews right on your website. Now, Angus, the last thing people do before they actually pull the trigger and set an appointment or make a purchase is they look for reviews on it. All right. And I've done recordings on my website, so I know this, right? So they'll type in the name of my company, followed by reviews or complaints.
Yes.
Now, when you collect those reviews, guess what comes up on the top of that search bar and shows you reviews is Google Business and all these other review places. And what you get here, I'll go into it a little bit, is Barnacle SEO. All right. And have you ever heard of Barnacle SEO, Angus?
No. Tell me that concept.
It's the process of attaching yourself to a bigger entity.
Yes.
All right.
Makes perfect sense.
To bring in resources.
Yes.
Now, those bigger entities are like Google Business and Yelp or Angie's List or, Facebook, anywhere. You have these very large sites. And a lot of times you don't need such a great website yourself, but people are going on to Yelp and they're looking for doctors in every category. And what do they see? They see the reviews. And once you concentrate on that, and you have better reviews than everyone else, and you have a lot, you just keep getting business coming in like over and over again. It's a great way to use reviews to bring in business as well.
What's the ingredient, Brian, of a great review? Like if somebody says, I'm so happy with the experience, Brian, what do you want me to write? Is there a framework for a great review?
I no.
Right.
I want it to be absolutely natural. Yes. All right. They can just say, excellent, thanks so much. Right.
Yes.
It usually, if the employee asks, right, a lot of times they'll say, Jen was excellent. It was so nice. They'll oftentimes want to include the person that helped them in their name in it.
Yes.
But no, don't give them any coaching on how to leave a review. No. Now, I will say this, Angus, when you're just starting to build reviews, right, and you don't have people's emails, maybe you're not collecting them. I used to like to call my customers.
Yes.
All right. I would call them and say, hey, I just want to make sure how you feeling, right? How did the service go? People are just overwhelmed that you took the time to do it, right? If you wouldn't mind, for my website, out of 5 stars, what would you give me, right? 5. Could you give me a couple sentences, right? And then you dictate it right down. It says, is it all right if I post it on my website? Yes. Now, people overwhelmingly, if you're the owner of a business and you're calling somebody, I mean, people will give you unbelievable reviews. It's like, you don't want to tell somebody they have an ugly baby, all right? You're just going to get excellent stuff. Now, and then, like I said, you send them that same thing and ask, can you put it on Google Business or wherever you want? And that starts the ball rolling. The difference between having no reviews on, say, Google Business and having 1 or 2 is just immense. All right. If you don't have any reviews, do you exist? Do you run a legitimate business? How do I know? It's a form of references. And there's another psychological principle, and that's called the similarity effect, right?
Yes.
Right. It says people like me had a similar experience, and that raises the odds that I will.
Yes.
All right. Another thing is accountability. It says that this company cares about the satisfaction of their clients, their customers. So if they did have a problem, they do have some sort of recourse. They could leave a bad review. That's going to get the attention of the company or the business.
What's your thoughts, Brian, on responding to reviews? I know it seems to be something that recently I've been spending a lot of time in Google My Business, and they really encourage you to respond to reviews, their best practices. What's your thoughts across the different platforms?
I like to get them to take it down, number 1. All right. Now, usually before someone leaves a review, they'll try to resolve it by calling you. All right.
Yes. Before we get into bad reviews, one moment, but even a good review, do you respond to those as well?
I don't.
No. Okay.
Some people do. I don't. The particular thing it does anything.
Right.
Persuasive wise, people are going to look at the negative reviews and how you respond to those.
Yes.
Much greater than how you respond to a positive one. So I wouldn't want, especially if you're bringing in a lot of them. I don't see it, Angus. Sorry. Let me see. Where was I? Where was I going with this thing?
Because that's a big topic that I want to talk about now. Let's spend some time on how to respond. Yes. Inevitably, you're going to get a stinky review at some stage. If you're in business for long enough, it's going to happen. I've got 1 or 2 of them in my practice from years ago, and it's what actually started me looking at this process. Yeah. Think, oh, gee, I need to cover on top of that. That doesn't reflect the great service that we have. It's literally 1 out of 100. And it's what really started me on this journey of understanding reviews a number of years ago. How do you deal with negative reviews?
I have a whole system. All right. Yep. So my goal is to first get them to take it down. Right.
Yes.
So the first thing is never be combative with them. All right. I'm sure, look, you have to understand that these people have something going on. It probably has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I like to do is sympathize. Mm-hmm. Hey, I completely understand what you're saying. I would have been upset too. Okay. The next thing is try to make it right. Look, I'll refund you for the session. All right. Is there anything else I can do? Be willing to take a loss. All right. I'm willing to take up to $1,000 loss to have someone take down one of these negative reviews. I don't know how much you would have paid to do that, because they bug you. Right.
Yes.
The next thing is let them know that you fixed it. Right. We made a change in our practice that this won't happen again. So we thank you for bringing it to your attention. Right. And then end it, saying, I hope this solves the problem, and leave it at that. Okay. Don't ask them to take down the review at that point. Right. Follow up with them. And I know it's kind of a pain about follow up with them. Did you get the refund? Right. Something of that nature. Would you mind taking the review down? It's very important for my family, for my business. It's a karma thing. All right.
Yeah.
It's people don't want to leave those. They know it hurts.
Yes.
And overwhelmingly, they will get them to take it down. All right. Again, I've had thousands, right? And yes, I've had negative reviews, but I'll tell you, I've had about maybe 20 reviews that I got people to take down. All right.
Mm.
It always works, but you have to play the victim, never be combative.
Yes.
And if you're combative, and especially don't do it online. So when you get a bad review, reach out, not online. All right. I want to make that very clear. Call them. All right. That's the only way. Under no circumstances are you going to reply yet on that review. Goal one, get them to take it down.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, that I use reviews a lot in my buying decisions. And I often look, if I look for a negative review, I'm a bit interested what somebody has to say about it. And in many cases, in fact, most cases, they don't drive me away from the purchase, but I do really look for the response. What does the business say? And in many cases, I also notice this as well. If the response is really combative, I feel very different about it. If the business has just apologized for their experience and said, I'm really sorry, Brian, that you had that experience with us. If there's anything that I can do to make that up to you, I would really like to. Please come and, that response to me almost wipes out the negative review. I realize as a fellow human being on this journey that sometimes we have bad days. And as you mentioned before, often a negative review is not got anything to do with the business. If that person happened to be having a bad day anyway, they're going to make something negative out of everything. So they don't worry me as much as what they used to.
Yes. When you contact people offline, be able to send them a gift. I've sent out $100 Amazon cards, something to make it, people have a bad experience, make it so it turns into a positive experience. Under the circumstances that you can't get them to take the review down, how you reply, like you said, is huge. Okay.
Yes.
Now, when you reply, the thing people see right away is the first couple sentences, right? And it's always like a read more, right? So you want to solve the problem right off the bat. All right. So, I'm so sorry you had this experience. We refunded your session and we fixed the issue so it won't ever happen again. Solve it right off the bat. All right. People, like you said, make mistakes. All right. It's inevitable. It's Murphy's Law. The thing is how you handle them when they happen. All right. Once they know that a company is willing to make it right, like you said, these negative reviews can turn it around. All right. So yes, but under no circumstances do you get combative, because I've seen companies get combative that have had to close their business and open up again with a new name so they can start their whole online reputation again. All right. So make it right. Say it's been fixed. It won't happen again right off the bat. And yeah, it could absolutely help. Very important how you respond though, Angus. Yes.
I think sometimes, you mentioned early on, we've got to push our ego to the side there. I know that I've given advice to clients over time of mine, coaching clients who've had patients that are giving them a real hard time. And often my first advice is give them a refund, and then they'll come back to me and say, I've done nothing wrong. I go, I get it. I totally get it. And I agree that you've done nothing wrong. But the $500 you're going to give this person back there is going to be way less than the stress going forwards. It's not an admission of guilt. It's none of those kind of things there. But you're going to be paying for this in stress of weeks or months to come there too. And that ability to what's, a loss leader, so to speak, so you can just put that to side, I think is great advice there too. Whatever it takes to help to remove those reviews. But I've not actually thought about that, whole process of offline of trying to deal with it. Yeah. Moving forward.
In the response, always say, our goal is to help people, never upset them.
Yeah.
Let people know that also helps. But yeah, you have to, like you said, swallow that ego up. All right. How you win these is by actually kind of playing the victim and, making it clear that this person is kind of lashing out. All right. So that's the way. And that's the only way you could win. All right. And it could help, but you do, Angus, you have to set yourself aside. You don't respond right away. Take a day, right? Write out the response early. Do not, under any circumstances, react to these reviews.
Yeah. And then look, I think this is also an opportunity It's important, I think, my take on it is to be humble there also. There can be a tendency for us to look at any reviews and say, well, that's just a crazy person. But it might be a nice opportunity for you to look in and see, how are the practices with my practice? What kind of a job are we doing? Is this an area for you to improve? I want to really encourage our listeners to make sure they don't miss an opportunity that, somebody genuinely might have found an area in your practice that could be improved also.
It could be as simple as paperwork, right? Something wrong at the front desk. People get upset about small things, but like you said, make it clear that you thank them for bringing it to your attention.
Yes.
And you have taken actions to fix it. These are huge, right? And look, it nullifies the whole review, doesn't it? Right? So if someone says, this happened to me, here's a 1-star review, 2-star reviews, but your response is, thank you for bringing it to my attention. We have fixed it. It will never happen again.
Totally.
Right? That nullifies it.
Yes.
So, lucky for you, it's been pointed out, it won't happen to the next person.
Yeah.
So how you respond is huge.
And I absolutely, as a consumer, if I was at a website and it had the occasional one of those, that'd be just like water off a duck's back. If every second or third review is like that, then they're going to lose credibility with me. But those situations are going to come about. Brian, can you share perhaps some of the biggest mistakes? We've kind of touched on a few here, but let's kind of group them together. What are the biggest mistakes that you see businesses making when they're wanting to increase their reviews?
Well, first of all, it pains me when people get reviews and they start building them up on Google Business, but they don't display it on their website.
Yes.
That just kills me, right?
Yes.
They're worth so much, and they can, it closes people so quickly. They'll just, boom, they'll make an appointment. They'll make a purchase. There's no need to call you, right?
Yes.
You put an FAQ, answer their questions, it's done, right? So my business, I have salespeople, but overwhelmingly, they love their job because everything's teed up for them. It's already done. It's already sold, right? Let me think the next one. The next one is the format, okay? Mm-hmm. It pains me when I see reviews on people's websites and it doesn't have a date, maybe it has a name, but I have no idea when it came in. There's no star reviews. I don't know what service they had. They just list them, and there's like 6 of them. They could have been up there for years, and someone else could have wrote them.
Yes.
Make sure it has the format of the stars. There's an absolute format that needs to be done. It has to be in stars. It has to have a comment. It has to have a date. Mm-hmm. All right. I like to include the person's name, maybe just the first initial, last name. Absolutely. Right. And the more information, the better. Right. So if you're even a $10 product on Amazon, right, I'm going to want to know the different reviews someone ordered if they ordered a black one compared to a purple one. Mm-hmm. Maybe the purple is just a bad purple. The more specific that you can get, the better. All right. That is huge. That makes the reviews look legitimate. And that's going to just separate. You're going to get so much more value out of these.
Yeah. So if we're going to have some kind of third party or self-driven review system that we're going to have on our website, as opposed to just kind of having a screenshot of Yelp or Google My Business, then the key ingredients of those reviews are have a date, have a star system, comment, if possible, have a name. Would a photo be a bonus if we're allowed to have neither here nor there?
It could. I don't think, sometimes on Amazon, you'll see people leave reviews. Yes, it helps. Yes. It doesn't hurt. It's complicated to leave photos. Sometimes Google has that built in. Yep. Fine. Yelp has it built in. Fine. I don't want people to go out and start building these capabilities in there. I don't think it has that much effect. I don't want people to complicate it. I don't want to people say, oh, I'm not going to do it because I haven't figured out how to include a photo on there. Okay. Yes. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So we talked about, first of all, not displaying the reviews on your website. Big mistake. Second, the formatting issue. So if you're missing, date, stars, comments, at least an initial of the person's name. What else do you see people doing? What other mistakes?
A lot of these places, they'll give you a code for a seal, right? I think Google does it as well. You'll put it right on your website. It'll display, okay? Make sure that they look good, right? So you could hire a designer, maybe 25, $50 to have them just do an image for you of Google or ZocDoc or wherever you're building up reviews. This is huge. Boy, other than that, just make sure that you get, I want you to focus on just maybe one or two third-party places to really focus on a lot, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It is important to actually build maybe one or two reviews up on all these smaller ones, right?
Yes.
So here we have maybe the yellow pages, the white pages. It could be all these small places, but have at least one review on there, right? Because when people look you up online in Google, it shows those stars. They're called rich snippets, right?
Yes.
They're huge, right? And they display first. And if they look you up and they start seeing, 4 or 5 mentions of you and they're all 5 stars, it's huge. And a lot of times it doesn't say how many reviews there are sometimes, but those stars are just immensely valuable. Even Facebook doesn't give stars, but get people to leave you a couple reviews. And it could be family members, Angus. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just, you got to get started. Just a couple. Get your friends to leave one.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Do you have a weighting? And I know obviously in the insurance industry, it may well definitely be different than what it is with us as health practitioners. What do you see in terms of a hierarchy of the value of the rating systems? What are the big ones working down?
By far is Google
Yes.
Business. Now it's for the reason Google's the #1 search engine, right? They get 90% of the searches right now.
Yes.
And they have Google Local Business, right?
Mm.
So I imagine your listeners have local practices.
Yes.
So if they're looking for someone in your industry, it's going to come up locally. Now,
Yeah.
Who sticks out locally? The people with the good reviews.
Yeah, totally.
Now, when you're doing that Google business listing, sure, reviews, but make sure that you include a lot of information on that Google business listing.
Mm.
They have a description area and they probably limit to it, I don't know, 1,500 words or characters or something like that.
750 it is.
Is that what it is? Fill it up.
Yeah.
Fill it up, right? Include the cities you serve, a huge About Us page.
Yeah.
Google favors these. They want to put your hours of information, put your phone number, put a link to your website. These are huge. So
Yes.
That's probably by far the one that you should concentrate on. But I also suggest concentrate on making sure that you only contact the happy people, and possibly make sure you collect them first. All right, get the comment and then send them over to Google.
Yeah, I like that strategy of collecting them first in a format that and then any little corrections that might need to happen, or if there's something going to appear on there that you don't want people to actually
don't send it.
see.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a form of safety, right? It's a buffer, and that's one of the things that I think that is going to encourage people to try to do it. Right? You don't have to worry about getting this real negative review on Google Business. And plus, if it's a negative review, you could fix it. You don't want to fix it, after they've left it on a third-party website. You'd rather fix it on something you have that you have the option not to display on your website.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense as well. Brian, what other things, if our listeners go out and get a hold of your book, The Salesman Who Doesn't Sell, what other great pieces of information are people going to learn inside of there?
It's about building your reputation. I like when people take professional photos of themselves.
Yes.
Right. Executive headshots. There's a lot of places online. You could have someone come over to your home, right? $100, $150.
Yes.
You get all the lighting. It could be an outside shot, and they touch it all up so you look great. These are huge. Okay. You put that on your website. It separates you. You also put them on your social media, right? If you're running a practice, pictures of your office, these are huge. And websites, again, these stand out. I like people to spend money on their websites. It doesn't have to be crazy, but don't do it yourself. That's a huge excuse. I want to learn how to build a website myself. No, don't do that. Under no circumstances. You do what you do, okay? Find someone local that does web design. Spend the $1,500, or it's worth it, right? People are going online. It's like your business card. It's your new business card. But you always want to make yourself look professional online.
Yeah. I wondered too with websites, I noticed recently, we've been talked a little bit about kind of Google Local and Google My Business there as well, that even inside of that, it's asking me, do I want to set up a website inside of there now?
Yeah.
Which, I'm starting to wonder whether Google is wanting this, as in many cases we've seen Facebook and the likes tell us to kind of build up our likes, and then they're starting to want us to pay to get in front of them. These free products to begin with, and then Google's going to say, look, if you want to keep your website inside of here, it's going to be a monthly fee. But I'm starting to see this push towards their kind of Google Local and what information they want in there, and post updates, all this kind of stuff. I'm very interested in where that might be going. Do you have thoughts about that?
Yeah, I say don't do it. Okay.
Right.
Number one, you're going to want your own domain name.
Yes.
So under no circumstances do you want to, WordPress dot or Google dot or Google
Yeah.
Sites. You want your own domain name your own practice. Those systems, like let's say GoDaddy or Google, they all have their little systems, but what they build you is cookie cutter websites that don't look good, right? And they encourage you to, again, build it yourself. No, make sure you hire a professional. There's a lot of simple websites that if they build it for you, you could add to it, right? You can put yourself a WordPress website. I think there's Squarespace or Square, Wix.
Yes.
Any of these are fine, okay?
Yeah.
Just have someone build the home page and an inner page and maybe like an appointment page. You're only talking about 3 pages, okay?
Yes.
And then if you want to post a blog post or a podcast post, it's already done. The design is done, right? But yes, try to stay away from these very inexpensive do-it-yourself websites. It's not going to help you look good.
Yes, no one wants to come along and have their spine looked after by somebody who looks cheap and rush there as well. Hey, Brian, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I'm fascinated by this. I think that this will be an absolute key pillar of any successful business going forwards, whether you be an online business or brick and mortar, like many of our listeners are as well. I want to encourage all of our listeners to check out Brian's book, The Salesman Who Doesn't Sell. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes so people can get that too. Brian, any wind-up thoughts, anything you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I'd like to offer all your listeners a free copy of the book. If they go to brianjgreenberg.com/MYP.
Yeah,
all right,
thank
they can
you.
go ahead and they can download the PDF version or the audio version. Both are fine with me, and I hope it's helpful. It has a lot of this. It has all this information and even more.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'll make sure I have that link in the show notes, and as part of our email blast and our socials, I'll make sure that link is on there as well. So, Brian, have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks so much for all that you do, and I look forward to seeing more of your success moving forward. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out the Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work one-on-one with you to apply, implement, systematize, and help guide you and your practice to the next level. Now you can join me over at adiomedia.com/join. That's adiomedia.com/join. I'd love to see you in there.